Yossi, I'll start with you. The danger that a nuclear Iran poses is pretty much clear to everyone. But can you tell our viewers in what ways does Iran's entrenchment in Syria pose a danger for Israel?
Yes, of course. What the Iranians are trying to do is to turn Syria into a base from which they can threaten Israel in a much easier way than they can from far away Iran. And of course, even if they are trying to have nuclear weapons, they know it's going to take time. In the meanwhile, they have to build their capabilities, and they are trying to bring into Syria elements that would make it possible for them to threaten Israel in three ways. First is by improving the capabilities of Hezbollah and other targets they have in the area. And their main focus in this respect is trying to enable Hezbollah to have weapons that are more precisely guided. And Israel is trying to prevent that from happening. Secondly, they're trying to build, or they were trying to build until recently, a base for carrying out terror attacks against Israel from the areas adjacent to the border in the Golden Heights. And third, they were trying to build, are still trying to build a base for Iranian military power inside Syria itself, that simultaneously or later on can be used also in order to protect efforts by Iran to use Syria as a place where they can produce all kinds of weapons that they are not allowed to produce in Iran. All of these are direct threats for Israel, and we saw that on February 10th when they were trying to carry out an attack against Israel directly from Syria, from T4 airbase.
Yeah, that's what I want to talk about. It's a good segue to my next question to Gad. So according to foreign media, Israel recently hit that T4 base in Syria outside of Homs, which houses Iranian drone forces, killing 7 Iranians there.
One colonel.
One colonel, yes. And this is the same base from which that Iranian drone was launched in February. And according to the Wall Street Journal report, Prime Minister Netanyahu ordered the Israeli strike in hopes of preventing Iran from using that anti-aircraft battery against Israeli jets carrying out strikes in Syria. So militarily, was this attack a success? This alleged Israeli attack, was it a success?
Well, I think it was a tactical success for sure. I mean, okay, the place was destroyed and the message was delivered to Tehran. We know where you are. We know when you launch the drone. We follow the drone. I mean, here in Israel, everybody talked about the drone and it being, a big threat to Israel. Let us not forget it was intercepted by an Apache helicopter flying at 200 kilometers per hour. So, I mean, there is a threat, but let's not, oversize it. But yes, I think it was a success. Okay. In the long list of messages delivered from Jerusalem to Tehran, we have a red line. I'm not sure that Tehran really knows where the red line is.
I want to ask both of you, an Iranian retaliatory strike against Israel is likely in the works. 2 researchers at the Brookings Institute, Dror Michman and Yael Mizrahi Arnaud, wrote this. I'm going to put it up on the screen. Where and how Tehran chooses to carry out its attack is still unclear, but it is most likely to be a rocket or missile attack launched from Syria. The choice will define what to expect for the future of Iranian and Israeli confrontations. Do you agree with that assessment, Yossi? Could an Israeli city be targeted in this reprisal attack?
They have so many options, and I wouldn't limit them only to this option. They may consider carrying out a terror attack against Israeli targets outside of the region. They did that in the past in Buenos Aires, as we all remember. So it's everything is possible.
Right.
And we should be on alert. And yes, the Iranians will try to find out a way to hit Israel. It's not retaliate. It's
what is it?
Because they started. So the kids playing.
Okay.
They launched.
It's in the eye of the beholder, shall I say. But Gadi, what do you think? I don't know if to call it retaliation anymore, but should we expect an attack like that, like these 2 researchers are saying, maybe on a large Israeli city?
I think we have to go back. I mean, the war in Syria is on for 7 years already, right? And I think the big mistake of the Israeli government from the beginning was that it was led into the situation and didn't lead. It should have said much earlier to the Iranians, we know you are in Syria. I mean, okay, Assad is a president, he can invite the Iranians in, and I think Bibi should have told his friend Putin, tell your friends in Tehran, they can send tanks, they can send guns, but don't send anything that threatens Israeli directly, because this is a red line we will not tolerate. If this would have been said much earlier in a much stronger words, maybe the position would have been different right now.
I think we said it right from the beginning to everybody who was involved in Syria. And you have to remember the Russians were not there right from the beginning; they came later. But we said it to the Russians from day one, and we were very clear, and we were active in Syria from day one.
Yeah.
In trying to prevent all these three threats that I was mentioning before.
Yes.
This is an ongoing war, and that's why I'm saying it's the idea of using the Syrian territory as a base from which you can threaten Israel was an Iranian idea that was not thwarted by the Russians, in spite of what Israel was saying. And Bibi went to Putin 8 times in order to tell him all about that.
It didn't
course,
really work.
the Russians have their own
It didn't really
considerations.
work, right? He kept boasting about his relations with Vladimir Putin and with Russia, that he could get things moving over there.
Well, first of all, we don't know, because things could have been much worse by now. So you cannot know if this is the case. I mean, there are all kinds of things that they can bring in. They didn't bring in planes, they didn't bring in rockets and missiles
So
that they can use.
would you agree with that, Guy, before we go for a break, that Netanyahu actually is working well with Putin in this regard?
Well, I think that at the beginning Israel didn't react strongly enough, but later, with the time, I think Bibi's policy in Syria was a good policy. I mean, you know, he contained the threat as much as he could, while supporting various groups on the border and not getting.
But Iran is on the border.
No,
problem with
not
Iran.
yet.
The Iranians were trying to build a base near the border.
Okay.
We thwarted that again and again. Many people that were involved in that are not with us
We
anymore.
have to go for a break. I'll let you finish up that sentence. We have to go for a break. We'll be back. Just a second. We'll be back for more on possible confrontation between Iran and Israel with our guest, Yossi Kופרווסר and Gad Shimron. Just a minute. Thanks for staying with us on the Spin Room. We're back on our segment Media's Crossfire, discussing Iran-Israel tensions with Yossi Kופרווסר, retired Brigadier General in the IDF and former Director General of the Ministry of Strategic Affairs, and Gad Shimron, former member of the elite operative unit of the Mossad. Yossi, I cut you off before we went for a break. You wanted to finish up your sentence there.
I wanted to say that the growing Iranian presence in Syria is mainly a result of the decision taken by the American administration, mainly the former administration, Obama, to let Iran play a role in Syria. This was not the case until the Americans and the Iranians agreed on the JCPOA, on the nuclear deal, but right with the nuclear deal came the American acquiescence to the Iranian role in Syria. And we are still eating these fruits of this.
Okay. God, Russia may begin delivering its powerful S-300 missile defense system to Syria in the near future, despite opposition from Israel and other Western powers. This is a report from the Russian daily Kommersant. And these sources told the newspaper that if Israel tried to destroy these batteries, it would be catastrophic for all sides, if I'm quoting the newspaper. Can Israel avoid hitting those batteries?
You know, I think the Russians are getting deeper and deeper into the Russian mud and into the Russian swamp. I know that Putin thinks he's done a very good move. He has now naval bases on the Eastern Mediterranean and Air Force bases, etc. But I'm not sure what will be the end of this intervention. Regarding the S-300, you know, 25 years ago I was Ma'ariv correspondent in Bonn.
Which is a big daily newspaper here in Israel, Ma'ariv.
Ma'ariv.
Yes.
And I think that at that time we were already talking more or less about Russians equipping the Iranians at the time, and also the Syrians with the top of the art.
So it won't happen, or?
So with the time, every time that there's a new threat of a new anti-aircraft rockets, etc., etc., and I think that the Israeli Air Force has shown that it can handle those threats.
Okay.
I mean, they are very serious,
Yeah.
but they are not. It's not a tragedy. It's something that can be somehow taken care of.
I want to tackle the Iran nuclear deal, which you brought up, Yossi. President Donald Trump will have to decide by May 12th whether to restore these U.S. Economic sanctions on Tehran. Here's what the Iranian Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif said to CBS Face the Nation on what would happen if the United States pulls out of that deal. Let's listen.
It will lead to U.S. isolation in the international community. Everybody has advised the administration that this is not a bilateral agreement between Iran and the United States, and withdrawing from it would be seen by the international community as an indication that the United States is not a reliable partner. Iran has many options, and those options are not pleasant.
Those options are not pleasant. Pretty harsh words there coming from Zarif. What's your reaction to that?
Well, I think, of course, speaking about American isolation is ridiculous. What the Iranians are really worried about is that President Trump is going to deliver on his promise to take steps regarding the JCPOA if it is not fixed. And the way things look right now, it is not going to be fixed. So he's going to nix it.
He's going to nix it. He's not going to fix it. He's going to nix it.
Yes, and I think the result is going to be that the options of the Iranians are going to be very limited. The most important thing that's going to happen is that the Iranian rial, that was already plunging like I don't know what, is going to just continue this nosediving, and God knows what's going to happen to the Iranian economy, because nobody in the major companies in the world is going to prefer doing business with Iran rather than doing business with the United States.
God, if Trump does pull out of the deal, as Yossi thinks he will on May 12th, what kind of effect will it have, if any, on the deal? It'll still stand.
No, it will not stand.
It will not stand at all, even though all those European countries.
If you read, I didn't read the whole agreement, but if I remember the clauses, if one side is drawing out of the deal, the deal is out.
Right.
And if the deal is out, all options, I'm not supporting Zarif, but all options are open. And the options of Trump are either to put heavier sanctions on Iran, which will really strangle its economy, or even maybe a military strike. Because, Trump, you remember the movie?
You think that's an option?
You remember the movie Dr. Strangelove?
Yes,
with Peter Sellers?
Yeah,
about this crazy... Peter Sellers is nothing compared to Trump. Trump is... Trump, nobody knows what Trump will do in this case.
Well, speaking about Trump, French President Macron is visiting Washington today to talk with him. Macron took part in the attack with U.S. And Britain, but doesn't want Trump to leave the nuclear deal. He doesn't want Trump to pull troops out of Syria. He's even called the Trump whisperer. Can he work his magic on Donald Trump and maybe sway him? Or has that train left the station?
I don't think that on this extremely important issue for Trump is going to change his mind just because something that Macron is going to tell him, unless Macron has a way to fix the deal. But I don't think that he has one. And I think for Trump it's extremely important, and he knows well this deal is terrible. It's terrible for the West. It paves the road for the Iranians to have a nuclear arsenal, a big nuclear arsenal into a threat 13 years.
Yeah.
Who was ready to support a deal like that? And in the end of the day, Macron will have to stand with the United States. He doesn't want it to happen now. And we know that once the deal, the US pulls out of the deal, it means the imposition of the American sanctions. American sanctions are secondary sanctions. They are not about the United States not dealing with Iran.
Yes.
It's about not dealing with anybody who deals with Iran. This is the...
Sanctions by proxy, in a way.
So this is so powerful and so painful for the Iranians. I don't feel that they are going... Now they're trying to deter the Americans from doing it. But once it's going to be done, they will have to reassess.
God, what do you think? Can Macron make any, does he have any leverage?
The last time that the French influenced American policy was in 1981 when President Mitterrand whispered to President Reagan, we have a high source in Moscow which is in the KGB and can give you the best information you need about the technical and capabilities of Russia. I don't know if you know the story. It's about really a colonel in the KGB who knew that if he goes to the Americans, the KGB will discover. So he went to the French.
Okay.
He was given the code name Farewell. And later Richard Perle was, the national security advisor of Reagan, said if there's somebody who really put Russia down on its knees was this colonel.
Really?
From the KGB farewell. So this was the last time that the Americans listened to the French.
That was the last time.
This time they...
Fantastic. I like ending our segment with that perfect anecdote about the situation today. I want to thank you very much for coming out of the spin room. Yossi and God, thank you very much. All the time we've got. Stay with us. When we come back, we'll wrap up the show with senior U.S. correspondent Michael Shore. Stick around.